We are the Catalan Independentist Resistance, and you are listening to a new update from Radio Hadrian in Free Catalonia.
Good afternoon, I'm DavidRaventos, and this is chapter 79 in Radio Hadrian, this program getting to you through KA Radio, the voice of new music. This program is dedicated as a homage and very special dedicatory to Delia Forrest. She is the first person to get 2 programs dedicated, mainly because she deserves it for everything she endured in the Catalan process, the Scottish process the last years. But this week especially, as we'll speak about in this program, and have you heard, there's a so-called hunger strike by some of the so-called political prisoners, because they are supposed to be so-called pro-indie leaders, but they're not indie leaders, they're not prisoners, and they're not hunger striking. But for Delia and for me, it's been tough days, because Delia was helping us stay afloat economically, emotionally, everything you can think of. When I did a hunger strike for the independence of Scotland and Catalonia 2.5 years ago. As most of you know, those 60 days of hunger strike ended in unforced being brought into a psychiatric ward, as all the dictatorship regimes do. I was tortured for 2 months, and if it wasn't for Delia, we wouldn't have made it. So this week, when she's having to reopen that wound, the same way as I've had to reopen my wounds, the same way as the wonderful team I happen to belong to of the Catalan resistance of Directe 68, it's been tough. But this week, very especially, if it wasn't for Delia, Radio Hadrian wouldn't exist. If it wasn't for Radio Hadrian, Directe 68 wouldn't exist. And if Directe 68 wouldn't have existed, Catalan independence wouldn't happen in the 21st century. Thus, the Catalan independence will owe a big part of being true to Delia Forrest. So, well-deserved dedication of this program again. Now, it's also time to realize, or to let know, that even when only a few hundred must be hearing this program in YouTube or live or through iVoox or all the options, this program has a direct influence on the independence of Catalonia. There's thousands of people listening to the Catalan version, and these people have become sympathizers of our political party, and these thousands of people have happened in little more than a year. So with a year more, we're going to be millions, and we're going to declare Catalan independence. And Catalan independence, the way we're going to bring it about, it's going to help so much to bring about Scottish independence. There's, if you're so nice as to keep spreading this program in the English version, we also have the Spanish version, which is going through some other channel, which makes us reach Spanish-speaking world. We said the Catalan reaches thousands of people. It's not very common, a dissident program coming out to the world in 3 languages. So even when most of the times we don't talk about specifically Scottish things, but this program is one of the main weapons to declare Catalan independence. And if that Catalan independence comes from us, well, that Catalan independence arrives through the hands of a group of people, which include somebody that did a hunger strike for Scotland, and that was tortured for Catalonia, but also for Scotland. It has to be a door opener. But you need to realize you're being had the same way as we Catalans have been had. So help spread this program. If you are in Barcelona sometime, we do these gatherings. This week we did the gathering with listeners of this program. We do one every 2 Wednesdays. If by lack of chance you can help finance this project, it would be great. By March or April, we expect to have out a documentary called The Lie, which exposes the Scottish referendum rigging and how the Scottish people have been betrayed by their own side. And in the middle part, we talk about the manipulation of brains in worldwide. And the third part will explain how Catalans have been betrayed by their own side. So we really hope that some real Scottish resistance far away from the Scottish National Party will emerge soon. We already have links with the Basque resistance, which have told us how they've been betrayed by their own side, so it's no news. The same in Catalonia, the same in Scotland, so we need to put our forces together to make the truth come out and declare independence through UDI, which is the only possible way for independence. In this week program, we're going to talk about this mockery of a hunger strike that these Catalan politicians that are supposed to be in prison, they're in prison, but they're imprisoned kind of in the witness protection program to avoid being lynched by betrayed independentists. So nothing is what it seems. You know, it's like the world is exactly the opposite of as most people believe. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the 40 years of Spanish Constitution. We're going to talk briefly about Brexit and the Gilets Jaunes. And we're going to talk about violence in the streets of Catalonia, which is Spanish staged. We're going to talk about psychological warfare against Catalans. And we're going to talk about the Spanish plan to stop, to have a strike in Catalonia to benefit Spanish objectives. Well, 8 days ago, Jordi Sánchez and Jordi Turull started a hunger strike. Hunger strike not for the Catalan independence, just to be treated nicely in a Spanish court, which makes it very different from the hunger strike and I and Delia supporting with it, and a group of people like Gerard and Amy and Luis Botinas and some other friends. In the beginning, they said it was a 15-day hunger strike. That's a mockery to Catalan people who've done hunger strikes. It's a mockery to the Irish people who died on a hunger strike. That was a joke. They corrected it because somebody might have said, listen, it was a mistake to say 15 days, so now they corrected it. But, well, everything has been aligned in this process. They didn't declare independence. They didn't want independence. Everything is a farce for the last years. So how could this hunger strike be different? We have to say we've sent burofax to Catalan radio, television to urge them to speak about Directe 68 and to speak about the hunger strike I did, because it's the only alive president we have. Our hero, Luis Maria Xirinacs, died several years ago, and he was a specialist in doing hunger strike for the independence of Catalonia. And this Catalan television is answering to people calling and writing, saying like, oh, no, we didn't talk about it 2.5 years ago because they censored us, so now it's too late. So the good news in Catalonia is, if you raped somebody, you murdered somebody, or you did a tiny petty genocide, well, if it was more than 2 years ago, you're safe as far as Catalan television is involved. So censorship justified in 2 years old censorship is as bad as that. But the thing that really put us in very difficult position, because when you realize most of your country people has been lied to and they're accepting it, and it's very hard because we need everybody to make independence. And in RACU is the main private radio station in Catalonia. The same interview that mocked my first hunger strike, which was done down from the premises. They have the Jordi Turull guy that lied to me, the same way as Jordi Sánchez ignored me, the same way as 2 other guys that have joined hunger strike I've known them for 30 years, and it took me 25 years to know they work for Spain. One of these hunger strikers, his family, his wife, went to greet their children, and they were laughing and they were hugging. So, well, they're not really exactly fearing his death, is it? But then, the thing that really pissed Delia and me, because they do this interview, and funny, the question is, how do you feed yourself during this hunger strike? Is alimentar comes from taking food, so it would be feed. Can you see the tremendous Freudian slip? You ask somebody on a hunger strike, how do you feed yourself during the hunger strike? And the Jordi Turull answers, no, I'm taking some mineral salts and glucose. Yes, you heard right. They're pretending they're doing a hunger strike and they accept taking glucose. And that, for those of you not knowing, there's three things to say about this. First thing is the lack of this glucosion or glucose or sugar, in a way to cover my lack of English language fluency, is the thing that is more needed in a hunger strike. It's one of the big problems, because cells and organs get attacked once glucose starts being used after 2 or 3 days. So taking glucose makes it invalid as a hunger strike. It's as easy as going to Google and you put glucose and then hunger strike, and then you see a Chinese person who had to take glucose after the 3rd or 4th day of hunger strike, apologizing to his followers for having failed them. But then the most personal, and sorry, we talk about this lots of times, but we censor it everywhere. So if we manage to put up this program, it's normal. We're trying to break censorship. So it's normal that we talk about that. And it's what would you expect? But it's as tremendous as this. We were doing a hunger strike without all the fanfare, all the doctors, all the lawyers, all the support these turncoats, all the support these moles, all the support these traitors, all the support these infiltrators, all the support these collaborationists are having. And a friend of us recommended us to go to a natural guy. He offered to have some things, and he offered to take glucose. And I said, no, I'm not taking it, because that would be a fraud. So you can imagine how bad it feels when you see this fraud is committing Spanish state terror against 7.5 million Catalans by making them worry based on their lack of knowledge. People suffering for a Spanish terrorist that is murdering independence, like these 4 guys that are in prison. Of course, nothing like this gets to you, because every source of information you have is compromised. The National, Wings of Scotland, Bella Caledonia, all these things work for the establishment. The establishment works for London, for Madrid, for the powers that be. So no real information apart from this program comes to you about Catalonia. Nothing. Zilch. And they've gone as far as to do like a testament. And they've had people doing a hunger strike for 24 hours inside a monastery, which is the same place where more than 50 years ago, including our admired Lluís Maria Xirinacs, and including the member of Directe 68, our beloved Ramon Vallès, they mimicked, they mocked something that was against Franco in 1966. But for 24 hours hunger strike? Oh, come on. And even Catalan President Torra said he might do it for 48 hours. Oh, come on. But the one that takes the cookies that they're probably eating, these guys, is Catalan government won't give sandwiches or these things in public acts. Like that's gonna change anything. this is on itself an act of state terror against the Catalan people, is pornography of the feelings. But then again, you say, oh, you need proof, you need proof. No, when somebody accepts taking glucose during hunger strike, it's all the proof you need. But of course, if you are you're blind by your faith. It's like being a member of this Catalan process is like being a member of a cult. And when you belong to a cult, it doesn't matter how much proof you have under your nose. You simply want to keep being part of the cult. And that's what the official Catalan process have become, a cult. And every day they have to keep inventing things to keep these people who blindly believes in Puigdemont, in Junqueras, and in TV3, to keep believing in them. Briefly, it's been 40 years of the Spanish Constitution. Constitution, which is a word coming from Catalan Constitució, from that language has spread to a lot of languages, the word Constitution. And the relevant thing is, well, most people didn't vote for it. People under 58 didn't vote for it. It's a very difficult to change constitution that requires strong majorities, which make it non-democratic. Because, well, if you have to have bigger majorities to change something that it was needed to pass it, that's unfair. But the two relevant things is, now, 40 years, some things have come out. One, that the sense for the referendum for the Constitution was rigged. Does it ring a bell? Referendum, rigging, census, rings a bell, isn't it? And the second is that they didn't put a separate referendum for monarchy or republic, because every internal poll said that republic would have won. So that, again, goes to show that all of you that expect Scottish independence to come through a referendum, it's not on. So everybody talking about referendum doesn't want Scottish independence. On brief notes, the Brexit's having a highlight next week. I think it's the 11th. I don't think it's going to pass the Parliament. I want to clarify, when I talk about Catalonia, I'm an insider. I talk about people I know. I talk about information I get directly from people that want to meet with me, and they confirm everything we say. They hear on the radio, say, oh, you spoke about these people. I know, and he was a torturer. I know, and he was an infiltrator. I know. I see him, he's crying, and then he turns around and he's smiling and laughing his ass out. We get this sort of information. We have hundreds of people informing us. Because finally they found a communication media, which is this humble program. It's the only source of information Catalans get. It's like a dictatorship, which was the reason why we started this. That's the reason why we call this program Radio Hadrian, to inform Catalans like in dictatorship time. So really, this program would need a bigger following, especially in its English version, but it has lived to its promise. It's going to bring down Spanish dictatorship in Catalonia. So this Brexit, I'm afraid, is not going to be passed. I'm afraid it's going to be a second referendum. I'm afraid you're going to remain. I'm afraid that's going to stall the possibility of a second referendum in Scotland. And that's going to be it. I was saying in social media and say like, oh, you want to be out of United Kingdom, but to stay in European Union, well, it's peculiar. Most Catalans also want that. And linking one thing to the other ends up making it more difficult to be independent, especially when people are scared that if you become independent from UK or from Spain, you're being booted out of European Union, which is a lie, but it's a lie that has been doing the rounds. So next week we'll have our eyes on the Brexit to see if finally there's a second referendum or not. The same thing, we want to be cautious with the Gilets Jaunes thing in France, because we know that these color revolutions are organized by Soros and the Rothschilds and the powers that be. And as far as I know, yellow is a color. So, and yeah, of course, there's the problem with this information. The problem with the world we live is it comes in so many layers, so many onion layers that you don't know if you've gone to the end of the onion, or you're just with some of the controlled dissident guys. So, well, everybody comments on Macron being a Rothschild guy. So then, if on one layer you would say that people rising up against him should be the good guys. But sadly, what it could also be, and the fact that they're succeeding, I mean, we're going to succeed once, but we know it's taken us so many years, that all these things starting and so suddenly succeeding is normally the system that makes them. So it could perfectly be that Macron has been there, has received the order to put a 20% raise in taxes for oil. So it's, the classical action-reaction solution that we are so used to. So we won't go into it, because the way to solve the world is to act locally. We really want, the independence of Catalonia to try to make the world a better place, but we need to concentrate on what we know, what we have information about. And then again, here in Catalonia, there's been violent riots, possibly you've seen, low intensity, and there's been fights with the Catalan police, and that's to divide the independentism, because both sides are run by Spain. Spanish police is run by Spain, and the rioters are run by Spain as well. So it's wrong to choose the side of the police. It's wrong to choose the side of the rioters, because they're all organized by Spain. And the same thing is what's going on. And we're going to try to make a 24-hour live in YouTube and in Facebook Live the 20 to 21st of December. Because all forms part of the same plan. We've said it before. The plan of Spain is to raise tension, to bring violence, to make possible international mediation, which is going to impose an agreed referendum that will be lost, Scottish style, and then independence murdered. The same way they murdered in New Caledonia, the same way it's been murdered in Scotland, the same way it's been murdered in Quebec. Murdered by referendum. And the plan is perfect, as we see. They're bringing up violence with infiltrators in the Catalan pro-India sector. And now for this 21st, they're planning to do what they call stopping the country for a day. We plan to do a 24-hour live program, like a Japanese strike. Because this thing, it's been a 3-tier plan. The same way as they put the bombs and then they do the war. And it's the same thing. They put the bombs, they do the demonstrations, and they do the war. It's part of the same plan, 9/11, 11 March in Madrid, you name it. Well, it's the same 3-tier plan here. Spain orders his employees, Jordi Sánchez, Jordi Turull, Forn, and Rull, to do a mock hunger strike, with glucose and all the stuff. Then they happen to organize a council of Spanish ministers in Barcelona, which is something they never do. And they happen to do it now accidentally the day of 1 year, exactly to the day, the 21st of December, 1 year to the day, when these elections that never should have happened after the fake declaration of independence is happening. And in Barcelona, Spanish ministers where they never gathered. And then again, infiltrators running the grassroots organizations and the political parties are organizing, stopping the country, and some others threatening with violence and taking over parliament on the 21st of December. And it's the perfect storm again. And it's action, reaction, solution. Action, telling you guys to do a hunger strike. Reaction, creating mayhem. Also, the people of the system. And then the solution, which is a solution for the world, and it's murder of Catalan independence, to this rigged referendum that will come out of it. It's so obvious when you're awake. It's so impossible when you're not. But we're growing. We're doing these conferences almost every Thursday. We keep seeing people change. We do this live program every Monday in Catalan. And we're going to do this documentary, and we do this program. And there's a book on the making, and it's a miracle. What was impossible, thanks in a big chunk to Shale Scott and Delia Forrest and Gerard Aimee and Luis Botinas, is We cannot change this. It was impossible. As Mark Twain said, they did it because they didn't know it was impossible. What was impossible has become inevitable. We're gathering strength. We're winning this. We're gonna win this. Saur Aluba Gubra. Visca Catalunya lliure!
This has been another update from the Catalan Independentist Resistance from Radio Hadrian. Remember that you can follow us on social media, either on Facebook, YouTube, our Twitter account, Instagram, Google, Telegram, and also on iVoox.